as Daniel Levy does one of his best ever impressions of Daniel Levy. Tottenham fans are left wondering, when will Thomas Frank actually be announced? Another week without a manager allows our opponents to steal a march with their transfer business, presumably just so Coy's Daniel can scrimp a few extra quid off the compensation numbers for Frank and his staff. Same old, eh, Daniel? Meanwhile, reports suggest that Tottenham and Frank have had early discussions on players he wants to bring in, and there's some exciting reports. And I'll be going through all the Premier League transfer talk of the past few days. All this on today's episode of Daily Premier League Transfer News. Guys, thank you so much for watching and tuning in wherever you are. I really appreciate it. If you're on YouTube, please do press the like button. Please do subscribe if you're not already a subscriber, and listen on the podcast platforms, be that Spotify or Apple Podcast. Just go there, type the Spurred On podcast into the search engine and give me a subscribe or a follow. Also, some good news for all of you loyal, engaged fans of my channel. Well, it's good news for me. I would love you to support me in the Tottenham YouTube Content Creators Awards. They've been put together by Spurs Kings TV, and if you go into the description box below, you'll see a link, and if you click on that link, you'll be able to see all of the categories that I've been nominated in. I think there are 3, maybe even 4, and I would really appreciate your support. It's just a tick box, and if you like what I do, please do go to that link and vote for me in those awards. I've not won an award for my channel. That would be a great thing. So it's the Tottenham YouTube Content Creators Awards put together by Spurs Kings TV, and all the details in the description box below. Any support you could give me would be amazing. All right, well, to be honest, guys, I haven't made a video in the last couple of days because I've been waiting, like I'm sure you have, for the announcement of Thomas Frank. I'm recording this at about 9:30 on Thursday morning. It wouldn't surprise me at all if by the time I put this out, suddenly he'd been announced. But I thought if it was going to be to this morning, it would have been at 9 o'clock. So clearly Daniel Levy is still haggling. However, over 2 days ago now, Thomas Frank was announced that he would be the new head coach of Spurs by Don Fabrizio Romano. Agreement done with the manager on contract terms and staff. Brentford set to release Frank for the full compensation fee of £10 million. But is that actually the case? Because I'm sure, as we've heard with Daniel Levy so many times down the years, that it's more likely that actually he agreed to pay the 10 million, and now that Frank has agreed to come, he's now trying to haggle the price down. Romano said there's agreement with Frank and Tottenham on the project, salary, length of contract, budget, positions, and the players to target. David Ornstein, also the most reputable, the equal most reputable journo in the country, said Spurs made contact with Brentford as Frank appointment nears completion. This was over 2 days ago. Spurs hope to agree the deal in the next 48 hours. Well, that hasn't happened. Terms in place with the 51-year-old Dane. Healthy relations between the clubs for a £10 million release and the Brentford staff. Other reports coming out of Spurs are that Johan Lange has been the one leading the search to replace Ange Postecoglou, and Thomas Frank is well liked by Daniel Levy. Well, in case you didn't already know, Johan Lange and Thomas Frank have worked together previously in the Denmark setup, so that makes sense. And I actually don't mind the idea that our sporting director, or whatever Johan Lange's official title is, and whatever it will be when presumably Fabio Paratici comes back in. But I like the fact that the sporting director, the player in charge of recruitment, is aligned with the manager. That is an incredibly important thing, and that is an alignment that I think will benefit the club. It will be interesting to see how Fabio Paratici comes in and affects that, because of course Fabio Paratici, not really known for his use of data science when coming to recruitment or anything football wise, whereas both Thomas Frank and Johan Lange are huge data nerds. So it'll be interesting to see whether that relationship, whether they complement each other or whether that could cause some friction. But I think most Spurs fans are in agreement that having Paratici back, if eventually that does get announced, will be good in terms of getting exciting young players through the door, because of course he was responsible for the likes of Destiny Udogie, who I think will have an absolutely stellar this coming season if he can remain fit. And I'm actually really hopeful that we will have a much cleaner bill of fitness this season. If you look at Brentford's fitness numbers in terms of how many injuries they've had in the last few years, it is far below Tottenham's. I think they're down in kind of like 12th, 13th, 14th place in terms of the most injuries per season, where Spurs were right at the top. According to some other reputable journos, Gary Jacob, Tom Allnut, The other managers that were considered by Spurs: Iraola at Bournemouth, De Zerbi at Marseille, and Marco Silva. Iraola was happy to stay at Bournemouth, and the same applied with De Zerbi at Marseille. I think that would have been a mad move to get De Zerbi in. He's too combustible, and Iraola's injury record as a result of the amount of sprints that he makes his players do in matches and presumably training as well was right up there with Ange Postecoglou, so I'm not sure that would have been the flip-flop to go to at that point. Rumours are that Thomas Frank wants to bring at least 2 members of staff with him to Spurs, and some more talk on Paratici. Actually, apparently some clubs in the Middle East have shown interest in him, presumably Saudi Arabia. However, he has made the choice to join Spurs again instead. Interesting article I saw with the former Spurs scout Mick Brown talking about Thomas Frank and Johan Lange. Here are the quotes. He says, Thomas Frank has done very well at Brentford, and they've been impressed, as in Spurs have been impressed with what he's done there. I worked with Johan Lange at Aston Villa, and I know he has a good relationship with Frank, and they are good friends. He is pushing for him to be appointed and is keen to work with him at Spurs. So they'll be taking what he says into account, and it will be a boost to his chances. Well, obviously, it really works because he's about to be appointed. It's always a good start for any manager having close relationships with some of the staff. It helps ease him in and get his ideas across, in this case in the transfer market, because there are some improvements which need to be made. So he will already have an ally in a good position at Tottenham, and then he can build on that. So kind of exactly what I was saying. Let me know what you think in the comments. Let me know what you think in general about the Frank appointment. I think people have kind of started to use their heads over their hearts in the last 2.5 weeks, and starting to feel, certainly from all the podcasts I've been listening to, a lot of the main podcasters whose opinions I really value and respect are starting to talk about how they feel like this is a sensible move. And I'm going to release a little documentary when the Frank deal is announced, about why I think Thomas Frank can do a great job at Spurs, and why I think there is some slight Pochettino vibes about Thomas Frank, certainly in terms of his personality, his man management, etc. Okay, on to the transfer news. Spurs have stepped up their interest in Bournemouth's Antoine Semenyo. However, Man United also remain admirers of the Bournemouth forward. Whilst he hasn't ruled out moving to Manchester United, it is believed apparently that he would prefer to join a club playing in the Champions League. And Fabrizio Romano, early in the day, Semenyo is appreciated by Tottenham, yes, but at the moment it's still early in negotiations, and Bournemouth will try to keep him. Apparently, Bournemouth demanding around £70 million for the Ghanaian international, who previously played for Bristol City, and before that had unsuccessful trials at Spurs, Arsenal and Millwall. So it just shows how players can grow. I have to say, I really like the links to Semenyo. I thought we should have bought him last summer. I was surprised we didn't. What I like about him is not only is he quick and dribbly and exciting, kind of similarly to Eberechi Eze at Crystal Palace, but he's also super powerful. Real big guy. And I think Thomas Frank will be looking to bring in physicality to Spurs where he can. Certainly down the years, Brentford in their wide forward roles have always been strong. The likes of Wissa, the likes of Mbeumo, the likes of Ivan Toney playing down the middle. Quick and strong, and really able to deal with the physical side of the Premier League. And I have to say, with our wide forward options at the moment, Son, Tell, Johnson, yes, they have pace, at least bits of pace in different ways, but in terms of the physicality, not quite there. Another rumour that came out yesterday, Aston Villa, Newcastle and Spurs are monitoring developments with Jadon Sancho after the England winger's return to Manchester United following his loan spell at Chelsea. He's 25, Jadon Sancho, obviously a very exciting player, but for me, one of the things Thomas Frank talks about a lot is a no dickheads policy in terms of players he wants at his club. Now, I don't know Jadon Sancho, but what I do know is that he has moved around a lot at a very young age, and there must be reasons, not just on-pitch reasons, in my opinion, why Manchester United and Chelsea have both not wanted to keep him on there. And he's on a lot of wages, so I cannot see that being a Spurs transfer that's going to happen. But I could be wrong. And also, let me know in the comments if it's a Spurs transfer you would want to happen. Listen, in terms of his quality on the pitch, he'd be an excellent Spurs player, but would we be able to get him on the pitch regularly enough? Would he be motivated to realistically take a wage drop to come to Tottenham? I don't want another player that we've brought in on loan, for instance, with an option to buy, like Timo Werner, who's just not going to play many games because he's not up to it. Okay, some more rumours. Spurs are interested in Brentford midfielder Yegor Yarmoluk. Now, this is not a surprise. Tottenham have already been linked with Mbeumo. I'll talk a bit more about that later in the episode. Tottenham will now get linked with a number of Brentford players, but for me, I think it's unlikely that Brentford will allow Thomas Frank to just cherry pick their best players. Leeds also interested in the Ukrainian. Apparently, Brentford value him at £25 million, but the club are not keen to let him leave. I can't see Brentford, like I said, allowing Frank to leave and then just to cherry pick all their best players. Seems very unlikely, and quite often when clubs let managers go to another club, they will put a stipulation in the contract that they don't come back for any of their players for an amount of time, be that 6 months or a year. So I can't see that happening. Spurs apparently also one of the latest clubs to show an interest in Red Bull Salzburg winger Dorgeles Nene. The 22-year-old is likely to cost between 20 and 25 million euros and has also attracted interest from Leverkusen, Freiburg, Lazio and Fiorentina. 22 years old seems to be the kind of ballpark age that we're looking at in terms of our transfer strategy at the moment. So that's one that could well be possible. One that I think is less likely is Spurs apparently joined Villa and Chelsea in the race to sign Man United winger Alejandro Garnacho. I do like Garnacho. I think he will be a good player eventually for someone, but I don't know. Once again, not very physical. He is very quick. I don't know. I guess if Thomas Frank meets him, if he's interested in coming to Spurs and he thinks that he's got the motivation to come from Manchester United to play for Tottenham. Obviously, there's the Argentinian link. Spurs have always done well with Argentinians. We've still got Romero in the squad now. Obviously, Pochettino was our manager all the way back to Ozzy Ardiles and Ricky Villa. So it could appeal to Garnacho on that front, but he would obviously be able to get far more wages at Chelsea. So whenever Tottenham are linked with a player that Chelsea are also linked to, I always pour a good douse of salt on it. Thomas Frank has apparently made it clear that he does want Spurs to sign Matthias Tell permanently this summer. How do you feel about that? Like I said, I think Matthias Tell is an exciting player. A bit of a lack of physicality there. He's very young, still only 19 years old. And Frank is known for working with youngsters and doing great jobs with them. So on that level, I can see why it would work and why he'd want him. And I'm sure Daniel Levy will be looking to lower that fee between Spurs and Bayern Munich, if indeed that is a deal that the club want to get done. It was originally set at 55 million euros. I think Levy will be trying to get it down to something like 40 million, 35 million euros. Let's see what happens. Some news on Son Heung-min, rumours suggesting he might leave Tottenham. He said this: I still have one more year left on my contract. Rather than saying anything at this moment, I think we should all wait and see what happens. But no matter where I end up, I will always do the best I can. It will never change. Alistair Gold has said that the chances of Son Heung-min moving to Saudi Arabia are higher now than they ever have been. Apparently Saudis last approached Son back in 2023. A move to the MLS is also believed to be of some interest to Sonny. However, they are unlikely to have the funds to complete such a deal. One more potential out. It's probable that Manus Solomon will leave Tottenham permanently this summer. That's according to The Athletic. There have been some conflicting reports on that, but for me, it wouldn't surprise me at all if Leeds tried to get their man on a permanent deal, and that Tottenham might be able to make a profit of about, I don't know, 15 to 20 million pounds on that, which would be pure profit because we got him for free from Shakhtar Donetsk just a couple of years ago, back when Donetsk had to basically release all their players because of the war in Ukraine, and Daniel Levy did a Daniel Levy and scooped up Solomon on a free transfer. Presumably Paratici was involved in that as well, to be fair. Okay, some kind of more longer form quotes coming out about Ange Postecoglou's sacking. Firstly, from Mickey van der Ven. He said this: it was ultimately a choice from the club. We as players have little to say about that. Of course, he's the first coach in a long time who's won a trophy and has had success at Spurs. So if you look at it that way, it is, of course, a strange choice. It's a choice from the club about which we have little to say, so we'll see what happens now. We see some rumours about the Brentford head coach, who it will probably be. So yes, a choice from the club about... he says, it goes on to say, I think many of the players got along with Ange well, and of course, what I say, he's the first coach who's brought success to Spurs in a long time. That also shows that he has certain quality. It also means he has a winning mentality, 100%. From that, you would of course say that it is strange that he was fired. What we've shown in the Premier League, though, is of course unacceptable. That would of course have multiple factors, but it would not only have been the coach. I would say that's a diplomatic answer from Mickey van der Ven. Clearly got on well with Big Ange Postecoglou, but also doesn't want to alienate himself from the board. And I think it kind of makes sense. Ben Davis said the following: from a player's standpoint, you don't tend to have much input into those decisions. For us, we read about the news as you did. As players, we have to move on and do the job that's in front of us, and it's no different this time. That is classic professionalism from Ben Davis, a man who has seen multiple managers come and go and knows that in reality it's just about what you can do on the pitch. Can you make the new manager like you. And I do think Thomas Frank will really like Ben Davies if indeed Davies stays to play under Frank. I do think there's still a chance that Wrexham might come in and try and pay some money for Ben Davies to kind of be one of the experienced heads of their challenge to go from the Championship to the Premier League. Brentford defender Nathan Collins has given some quotes on Thomas Frank joining Tottenham. He says, "I'm going to miss him. He's had a really good spell at Brentford. He's done unbelievable things and he deserves everything he gets." Glenn Hoddle, Spurs legend, has also talked about Thomas Frank becoming the Spurs boss. He said, "I'd be very happy. He's done a wonderful job in the sense that he's been consistent with Brentford. Some of the results he's got have been magnificent. He's adaptable. He doesn't just have one dimension in the way he wants to play. If he goes to Tottenham, he would need his staff with him because I think there's a close-knit feeling between him and his staff. I think it would be a good fit. I've met him a few times and I really liked him. He's good with the media and I think he'll do a very good job wherever he goes." I agree with Glenn Hoddle, and don't forget there have been other clubs in for Thomas Frank. Last summer, when Ten Hag looked like he was leaving Man United, United had him on their list but didn't pull the trigger on him. And I do think he is a sensible choice for Spurs. Some reports that Ange Postecoglou could make a quick return as Premier League clubs are interested in him. Apparently, Postecoglou could find himself a new employer with demand for his services, thanks to his attacking philosophy and history of winning trophies. He's already being targeted by a rival Premier League club, according to the Daily Mail online sport. Whether they're to be trusted, who knows? One of the staff that could be following Thomas Frank over to Spurs could be Andreas Georgesson, who's a set-piece coach, apparently. And Alistair Gold did say this about Ange Postecoglou. It's understood that he felt early on during his tenure at Spurs that despite his best efforts to change things within the club, it wasn't going to truly happen. I mean, that could mean pretty much anything, but I get the sense from Ali Gold that what he's talking about is that Ange wasn't able to really change the mentality from top to bottom, as in maybe change how Daniel Levy felt about spending on wages, probably particularly. But I'm not sure. That's just me putting my spin on it. Let me know in the comments what you think. Dejan Kulusevski, by the way, is apparently recovering well. He said this about his recovery. It's great. I'm ahead of schedule and can start walking now. Okay, guys, before I go on to the rest of the Premier League transfer gossip, I have been, and I'm very excited to have been gifted this mystery football shirt box by Surprise Shirts. I've not opened what's in this. Surprise Shirts, you order a box from them, and then you literally do not know which football shirt you're going to get. So I'm going to open this in front of you guys. Oh, look at this. It's very nice packaging, beautifully wrapped. And, some Haribo in there as well. Very nice. And it comes with this, which is from Bayern Munich to Bruno's Magpies and every shirt in between. Nice little sign. And, it tells you on the back who your shirt is from. So I believe this is, as a result, the Atramitos Athenion home shirt from Greece. Pretty cool. Blue and white, like Spurs, so I'm into it. So that is very, very cool, and I will be wearing that. Thank you so much, Surprise Shirts. If you want to do that, guys, you can get a Surprise Shirt as a present for someone for $37.99 at surpriseshirts.co.uk, and they are surprise_shirts on Instagram. Go and check that out. I'm now a fan of the Greek professional club Atramitos Athenion. And it was that club was managed by Chris Coleman in the 22-23 season. So go and check out Surprise Shirts. All right, guys, before I go on to the Premier League transfer news, more wide-ranging, please do give this video a like if you haven't already. Press subscribe on the channel if you're not already a subscriber for daily Tottenham Hotspur transfer news, all their news, and more wide-ranging Premier League transfer news as well. Because I haven't done a video for a couple of days, there's a load of transfer gossip to get through. Man United apparently moved one step closer in their bid to sign Victor Gyökeres this summer. Deal expected to be struck at £60 million. They're also looking for a new keeper. They want Onana out. They've spoken to Emi Martinez and are considering a move for Barcelona's Marc-Andre Ter Stegen. Chelsea also interested in him. He has fallen out with Barcelona in a big way. According to Fabrizio Romano, Brian Mbeumo is waiting for Manchester United as a priority. Thomas Frank, though, is close to Spurs, so we'll see what happens if he joins. But Mbeumo at the moment is waiting to see what happens with United. I'd love to see Mbeumo at Spurs. Let's see if Frank can do anything there. But like I said, not sure if Brentford would want to sell to Spurs. Chelsea and Arsenal are also two of the Premier League clubs alongside Man United showing an interest in Garnacho, as are Spurs, as I mentioned earlier. Dortmund, as well as Spurs and those people I mentioned earlier, interested in signing Sancho for a third time. Over to Man City, negotiations for Tino Livramento are currently complicated on standby. Newcastle are not reducing their asking price as they want to keep Livramento. Bayer Leverkusen apparently lining up Jack Grealish as a replacement for Florian Wirtz, who, according to Romano, his deal to Liverpool is here we go, €150 million total package. The British transfer record being smashed for Florian Wirtz. Be interesting to see how he does. Barcelona are apparently going all in to sign Liverpool's Luis Diaz, and as a result, they're no longer interested in signing Nico Williams. Harvey Elliott's most likely to join a Serie A club if he leaves Liverpool this summer. Chelsea are interested in another young player, of course, Morgan Rogers from Aston Villa. Their price tag is £80 million. They've also pulled out, Chelsea, of a deal to sign goalkeeper Mike Maignan from AC Milan. The fee Chelsea wanted to pay was £18 million, but Milan wanted more. That is idiotic from Chelsea, in my opinion. They need a proper goalkeeper, and Maignan would have been a really good one. Chelsea did submit a bid of €35 million for Jamie Bino-Gittins before the deadline, but didn't get that one over the line. They're also keen on signing Mohamed Kudus from West Ham. I mean, Chelsea just basically going in for everyone. It's a complete joke. They're cheats. I can't bear it. Newcastle are in talks with Burnley over goalkeeper James Trafford. They want him to compete with Nick Pope as a goalkeeper. Burnley want £30 million for him. Newcastle also stepping up their pursuit of João Pedro. Also, I did mention Grealish potentially going to Bayer Leverkusen. As well as them, Villa are interested in him to take him back, and Milan and Napoli also interested, as are Everton. Leeds have set their sights on Everton striker Beto, and they would want £20 million apparently. I've done a few TikToks about this just to goad Arsenal fans, but Martin Zubamendi has currently put his move on hold to Arsenal as he waits for a potential offer from Real Madrid. That was according to Marca in Spain. Arsenal fans got very annoyed with me and said, no, it's definitely happening. But actually, another report this morning has said that no, Zubamendi is waiting. He does want to go to Real Madrid. Arsenal advancing in talks with Benjamin Sesko from Leipzig. They're also still interested in Morgan Rogers and finals Igor Pixau. And also alongside Newcastle and Chelsea interested in Mohamed Kudus. And Arsenal are making one more bid to sign Mark Gahey, who, as I mentioned a few weeks ago, apparently not interested in a move to Spurs, unfortunately. All right, guys, thank you so much for watching today's episode. Once again, please do press that like button if you haven't already. The more likes we get on YouTube, the more Spurs fans will see this video in their suggested videos on YouTube. Also, do press that subscribe button for daily Tottenham news and transfer talk. And also, you can become a member, just £1 per month. All the details in the description box. And like I said, guys, if you could vote for me in the Tottenham YouTube Content Creators Awards put together by Spurs Kings TV, the link is in the description box below. Please do give me a vote in all of those categories I'm up for. I'd really appreciate your support. Come on, you Spurs. Enjoy your Thursday, guys. And let's hope that this Thomas Frank announcement comes soon. Cheers.